Welcome back to What's the Obsession True Crime. This video is going to take a look at the early life of Shanann Watts, where she went to high school, her first marriage, the time that she spent working at Dirty South Custom Wheels, a lawsuit that was filed against Dirty South Custom Wheels and named Shanann Watts as a co-owner of that business and a party to that lawsuit. There's been a lot of speculation and misconception about that lawsuit, and I am going to give you all of the facts about that lawsuit in this video. We are also going to take a look at the first house that Shanann Watts purchased when she was just 25 years old in 2009 and the circumstances surrounding the purchase of that house. How did she buy a house at 25 and what happened to that house? What happened when it sold? And then we're going to take a look at her journey into meeting Chris Watts, falling in love with Chris Watts, and eventually marrying the man that annihilated his entire family. This video is going to take a look at the early life of Shanann Watts.
Black Label got me dancing in the kitchen while I'm cooking dinner. Feeling amazing. Day 2. Alexa, turn it down. Black Label 2.0. Dancing while I'm cooking dinner. I made homemade meatloaf, homemade mashed potatoes, made green beans. I think I'm going to make some dessert, maybe brownies. Sounds delicious. And, yes. Okay, say hi. Oh, say hi to everybody.
Hi.
Say hi, everybody.
Everybody.
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Yeah.
All right, bye, guys.
At the time this video was recorded in March of 2018, Shanann was just about to become pregnant with who would have been the Watts' third child and their first son, a little baby she was going to name Nico.
Guess when you want to, it happens.
It was also in March of 2018 when Shanann finalized her plans to travel out to North Carolina for 6 weeks over the summer of 2018.
Oh, so you're in Statesville? I'll be in like Moore County area for about 6 weeks to build a business. Will you say goodbye to everybody?
Bye, buddy.
Say have a great day.
Good day.
Say see you soon, North Carolina.
It is during that time when Chris started an affair with a coworker, Nicole Kessinger, and although it seems to most people that Shanann and Chris's relationship was on the rocks, it is believed that it is this affair that sealed the deal to the horrible fate that was about to come. I mean, Chris Watts said so himself. He said if he had never met Nicole Kessinger, he never would have thought there was anything wrong with Shanann or his marriage. This story could not have had a more tragic ending. On August 13th, 2018, Chris Watts took the lives of his wife, who was 15 weeks pregnant, his 4-year-old daughter, Bella Watts, and his 3-year-old daughter, Celeste Watts. Their remains were found at an oil site Chris Watts worked at called Survey 319. Shanann had been buried in a shallow grave, and Celeste and Bella were each put into a crude oil tank where recovery teams had to work hard to search and find their remains safely. Shanann Watts was born Shanann Catherine Rusick to her mother, Sandra Onorati, her father, Frank Rusick Sr., and she had a younger brother who they named Frankie Jr. She was born on January 10th, 1984, so that makes her a Capricorn, just like myself. She was born in Clifton, New Jersey, and Clifton is in the northern part of New Jersey, just north of New York City. The family moved to North Carolina when Shanann was rather young, and she attended high school at Pinecrest High School in Southern Pines, North Carolina, and the family lived in nearby Aberdeen, North Carolina. Through the home videos that Shanann recorded and posted to Facebook, we know that she herself reported having a feeling of a lack of confidence, not an uncommon feeling among many teenagers, and a sense of not really belonging and not wanting to start conflict with others.
I just want you guys to know a little bit of my story. I was in a place for a long time where I felt very insecure. Growing up, I had struggles. I had people who picked on me, bullied me, said mean things, weren't so nice. I wasn't the popular kid in the group. And so it was always a challenge growing up and in high school and in school in itself. And when that happens, you kind of lose yourself to an extent. And people don't get it because I was such a good faker. Never explained when I was having discomforts. I never told people when I was unhappy or I was hurt. If you hurt my feelings, I never told you because I didn't like conflict.
One of Shanann's former high school teachers, her drama and acting teacher, has spoken out about his memories of Shanann as a high schooler. Apparently, Shanann and this teacher had a very close relationship.
She was a very insecure young lady who didn't have a lot of friends when I met her at 14 years old. But she was brave enough to sign up for beginning acting.
Ashley Banfield reads a letter that Shanann wrote to this teacher when he was leaving the district when she was back in high school, telling him how much he means to her. This gives us a little insight into what kind of a person Shanann was in some ways in high school.
You helped bring out the true person in me back in 9th grade, and I can't thank you enough for that. Not only have you been there for me as a friend, but you have also been like a father figure to me. I wish you the best of luck. Thank you so much for being a wonderful teacher and friend. I will never forget you.
Shanann's former teacher explains the changes that he has seen in Shanann since high school, how she's become a much different person than the person that he knew when she was in high school. Listen to what he has to say here.
The Shanann that we just described in 9th grade and the Shanann that she became before I left, she became a rock for me. She learned that giving her life away meant so much more, and she became like a stage manager and a production person. Adam Goodrum was our tech director, and she was always there to help with the tech crew, but she'd also work amazingly with the actors. She just learned, she had a level of empathy like a lot of people today just don't. So to find out that this happened to her, I mean, I still don't believe it's true. It's so mind-boggling because she's really truly one of the good ones, one of the amazing ones who really saw hurting people out there.
In her home videos, Shanann also talks about her academic struggles in school, in high school and beyond, and how she was never able to complete college.
I was never the smartest kid on the block. I worked my tail off to fight through school. I was not a book, like Chris is a book smart person. He reads something one time and he's like, it's memorized. Me, on the other hand, I was the one staying up to 2 o'clock in the morning studying and still struggling. I'm a horrible test taker. Horrible test taker. I can know all the answers, but put that test in front of me and I bomb it. I'm not a quitter. I don't fail, or I do, but I pick myself back up. And so I've always felt like a failure because I wasn't able to complete college for all the reasons.
Although Shanann was unable to complete college, she did find good employment, and it seems like her place in the world for a time being at least. And that led to her time working at Dirty South Custom Wheels. This is the story.
In 2006, Shanann managed a Pagers and Cell store in Fayetteville, North Carolina. The owner was Hisham Bedwan, also known as Hisham Abu Tabar. Hisham also owned Dirty South Customs. Shanann continued to work for Hisham and became a bookkeeper at Dirty South Customs, a shop for rappers and cool guys looking to soup up their wheels.
Next, we have the 07 Escalade, all blacked out, limo tint, 26-inch double G215, matte black with chrome inserts. Anywhere from the hood to Hollywood, we got you covered at Dirty South Customs. You just let us know what you need, we got you covered.
Shanann proved a valuable asset for her boss and managed both stores, which were 130 miles apart from one another.
We got you covered. Next, I'm going to talk to you about the Chevy Nova. On the 72 Nova, we have 22-inch Giovanna Delars, matte black to match.
With the stores being so far from one another, Shanann would have to zip around North Carolina in a custom Cadillac provided by her boss. She reportedly got plenty of speeding tickets, and hey, I probably would have too.
Dirty South Customs, making customizing your vehicle affordable. Starting off with the Dirty South Edition Bronze Package, which includes 18-inch wheels. The Dirty South Edition Silver Package, which includes 20-inch wheels. The Dirty South Edition Gold Package, which includes 22-inch wheels. And finally, the Dirty South Edition Diamond Package, which includes 26-inch wheels.
One thing I wanted to point out in the pictures at the time that Shanann was working at Dirty South was that I saw her wearing a number of different Steelers outfits. I always thought that being a fan of the Steelers football team was a Chris Watts thing, but maybe it was in fact also a Shanann thing. I'm not really sure. Does anybody know who was the original Steelers fan? And just as another little side note, while we're watching some footage of the family watching the Steelers game, even though, as you're going to learn, Shanann left Dirty South Custom Wheels on somewhat bad terms, she maintained a friendship with Hisham. In several of Shanann's home videos where she is selling Thrive or watching the Steelers game, she says hello to Hisham, like in this video here.
Hisham. Say hi, Pop Pop.
Hi, Papa.
Say hi, Hisham.
Papa. Hashem. Papa.
Everyone who knew Shanann knew that she was an awesome saleswoman. She had the personality, the confidence, and the looks to go with it. All of the ingredients that make an awesome saleswoman.
During much of the time Shanann was working at Dirty South Custom Wheels, she was married. And in fact, she got married before she started working at Dirty South Custom Wheels in 2002.
Shanann had graduated from Pinecrest High School in 2002, where she had met a gentleman named Leonard King, I guess a young man named Leonard King. They got married shortly after graduating from high school in 2002, and he was going to school to become a lawyer.
Now, I did find out that Mr. King was going to law school on the GI Bill, so he must have spent some time in the service, in the military. We do know that Mr. Leonard King was a little over 5 years older than Shanann.
And that marriage did not last very long. By the time she was 23 years old, she was divorced from Mr. Leonard King.
Now, just a note about Leonard King. In his interview with law enforcement after Shanann's tragic murder, he said that he had not talked to Shanann in over 10 years. And over 10 years from the time she died would have been right around the time that they divorced. He also said that he did not know Shanann's last name until he heard it in the news just a few days ago, before the interview. So once these two were divorced, they really went their separate ways. So now, regarding Shanann's employment at Dirty South Custom Wheels, everything wasn't always totally smooth sailing.
There was a controversy in 2009. It was a lawsuit titled Key versus Dirty South Custom Sound and Wheels. And it also named Shanann King as a co-owner of Dirty South Custom Sound and Wheels.
And with Shanann listed as a party to the lawsuit and also a co-owner of Dirty South Custom Sound and Wheels, the lawsuit had to do with Deceptive Unfair Trade Practices Act of North Carolina, and essentially the plaintiff stated that Dirty South Custom Sound and Wheels, along with the other co-defendants, basically screwed him out of money that they owed back to him and didn't do what they were supposed to do. However, the lawsuit and all of its complaints were dismissed by a judge, and nothing further happened regarding this lawsuit.
Single and divorced at age 23, Shanann moved to Charlotte and focused on building a home she could flip for profit. At age 25, Shanann Watts apparently built this home, and she said it was the proudest accomplishment of her life because she did it herself. So as you can see, this is quite an extravagant home for a 25-year-old. And
it has been speculated that her former boss, Hisham, had given her some money for some reason, some money more than what she would have typically earned as an associate or a worker at his Dirty South Custom Sound and Wheels business. But remember, she was named as a co-owner of the business, which is rather curious because she was named a co-owner at what age? 23, 24, 25 years old. So the whole situation with her work at Dirty South and the purchase of the home is a bit of a mystery. In his police interview with law enforcement, Chris Watt's best friend, Mark Jameson, talks about some speculation that the family and he had about Shanann and her relationship to Dirty South and her boss that may or may not explain some of the financial mysteries.
Because for years, his family has always assumed that Shanann has been pretty shady. And I never really saw it, but they all had reason to believe that she was very, there was something about her. And Chris said he had finally seen whatever his family had seen. He had finally seen that side of her. Yeah.
Do you know what it was that the family was seeing in her?
She was JD. She had a dark past, like her old boss. Even while she was seeing Chris and money issues with her boss, she was just very conniving, and that was what they were telling me. Now, when I saw Shanann, I didn't see any of that. Like,
this is what her brother Frankie had to say about the purchase of her home.
My sister loved her house. She worked very hard for what she had. And before she got with Chris, she was very wealthy. She had a huge house in Charlotte. You can look it up. Huge house. I mean, she did all on her own. She was making almost $500,000 a year at 20-something years old, like 22 years old. She's been very good. She was very, very smart. She was very business savvy. It's like I said, yeah, she could sell ketchup to a ketchup factory. I think she could. I don't know how she did it. I mean, I know she's pretty, but she could talk and talk and walk, you know.
Well, you probably heard him. He said she's making $500,000 at 22 years old. She's very smart. She's very business savvy. She could sell ketchup to a ketchup bottle factory or something like that. So I don't know. I think at 25 years old, with a job like she had, to purchase a house like she purchased, there'd have to be something a little funny going on. But we do have to remember this. The purchase of the house happened in late 2008, early 2009, and she just got in at the end of the no docs loan era. So that could possibly have something to do with her ability to purchase this house that was clearly way out of her means. And how do I feel comfortable saying that? Well, let me tell you about the sale of that house. So, of course, through property records, people were able to determine who purchased that house from Shanann King when she sold it in 2012, and this was a person named Byron Falls. He bought Shanann Watt's house in Belmont, which is west of Charlotte, North Carolina, and he says that she was in a hurry to sell the house, that he never even met her, that they did it quickly through a realtor, and she was in such a hurry to sell the house that she left furniture and other belongings behind as part of the sale. So we do know some additional things about Shanann's purchase of the house and then the sale of the house. We know that she purchased the house for the stated sale price of $334,500, and she took a mortgage out for $309,000 plus change, which means that in reality she put about $25,000 down on the house. We also know that the taxes in the few years that she lived there were around $5,500 a year. So, you know, those are some pretty decent taxes to have to pay on top of your mortgage. To come up with $5,500 once a year to pay those taxes is really no small fee. At least I don't think it is. We can also take a more detailed look at the purchase and sale history of this house to learn a little more about, you know, the financial situation she was in when she purchased and sold the house. We see that on December 1st, 2009, she purchased a house again for $334,000 and change. And then on March of 2012, the house was listed for $383,000 and change, and that was listed at a 14.65% increase in cost. So it was that the listing was then removed just about a month later, and then it was relisted, presumably with a different realtor, and it was listed for even more, for $399,000, just under $400,000. And then about a month and a half later, the listing was removed again. And then in August of 2012, there's no record of it being listed, but there is a record of it eventually being sold for $350,000, just $16,000 more than she purchased it for. And that is at a loss of 12.28% on the value of the home. So considering that the house was sold for just $16,000 more than it was purchased for 3 years previous, and that the realtor fees would have been more than $20,000, would have been more than the difference in the price of when she purchased it and then sold it, and that it is not very likely that she was paying more than principal into the house, this house was almost definitely sold at a loss. It would be very difficult to work the numbers that we know are true here about the purchase and sale of this home and have her ending up on top, meaning that she sold the house for a profit, guys. It just didn't happen. And I think also the behavior of her selling the house really quickly, leaving the furniture behind, just wanting to get out of Dodge, also tells us that there was a reason that this home was sold quickly and on a short sale. I don't know if you noticed as we've been looking at pictures of the house, but I bet a lot of you have, that the first house that Shanann purchased looks very, very similar in style and architecture to the house that she lived in with Chris Watts and their family at 2825 Saratoga Trail, don't you think? Yes, this house is the same house that was broken into, infamously, if you know the story of Shanann Watts, and we are going to get to that and talk all about that in just a little bit. I want to look at some of Shanann's Facebook posts during the time that she was working at Dirty South, after she had divorced Leonard King, and while she was living in this house starting in 2010. Many of her Facebook posts in 2010, at least in the beginning of the year 2010, are about her employment at Dirty South Custom Wheels and events that Dirty South Custom Wheels is holding in various places. She was kind of using Facebook to promote the business. January 15th, 2010, tell all your friends and family to stop by Dirty South Customs at address. Jagged Edge will be there signing autographs. Dirty South Customs is also going to be there with Jagged Edge at Bentley's in Fayetteville Saturday night. Come out and check us out, and a phone number. On my way out to Bentley's, Jagged Edge and Dirty South Fayetteville will be showing this town a good night. Hell yeah. Let's show them what we have in the Hummer. When I say dirty, you say south. Dirty South, Dirty South. Yep, I copied you. January 17th, 2010. Dirty South making it rain tonight with Jagged Edge. And earlier in the video, I told you that Dirty South was a place that could soup up your car if you're a rapper or a cool guy. And it seems that Dirty South was catering to these kind of customers. So I think when she's talking about Jagged Edge, etc., that is a rapper. And then there's a rap duo also that Dirty South was promoting.
Cars, we got it covered. Clothing, we got it coming. Music, we got it now. You're checking out the Independent Artist Showcase here on Dirty South Lifestyles, where we'll be showcasing independent artists straight out of the Dirty. From Anderson, South Carolina. Check out the new video from Natural Born Hustlers, Hustle Ghost. You thought we were joking.
And so on Facebook, Shanann talks about these events going on at Dirty South. February 10th, 2010, I wanted to go out and hide last night from Dirty South, my job, but the DJ, I hook up all his cars. So all night I heard, my girl over at Dirty South Customs will hook up your ride like mine. Dirty South this, Dirty South that. Go away, go away. I know I'm the shit and all. LOL. I had a blast and that's all that matters. Go Dirty South. So again, that's February 28th, 2010. March 12th, 2010. Dirty South presents Dirty South Lifestyles Part 1. Shows airs Friday on TWC Access Channel 9 each Friday morning from 9 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. That's what Hisham was talking about when he was just talking. Please tune in and see what Dirty South is getting into these days and watch the Godfather himself tell you all about it. Set your DVR because you're not going to want to miss this. Let me know what you think. So I guess Hisham was referred to as the Godfather and Shanann referred to him as the Godfather. You know, just thinking about the possibility of him funding some of that purchase of her house. I don't know. In Shanann's post in 2010 and early 2010, along with Dirty South, we see a theme of her talking about her starting to not feel so well. March 14th, 2010. Well, I think even with feeling so bad, I made a successful trip for the company. Think I got us a deeper discount. I represented us well in Dallas. Go Dirty South, Midwest. March 20th, 2010. Another week under wraps. With feeling as bad as I have all week, I still did my thing at Dirty South and sold everything. Sold the rest of my cars on the lot and most of my store. Next, I'm going to start selling my employees. I don't think I will make that much off them though. I might lose money. So, you know, here she's talking about the employees at Dirty South as being her employees, going along with the idea that she was somehow made to feel like she was a co-owner and was named as a co-owner in that lawsuit. You know, the interesting thing, though, is down the road, Shanann never talked about being the co-owner of a business or the co-owner of Dirty South. As enthusiastic as she was about growing her business, if this was kind of a legitimate thing, it seems to me that she would have talked about it more. So her position at Dirty South in that regard still remains much of a mystery. So I'm just going to read a few more posts from 2010, including the first time she ever mentioned Chris Watts. On May 4th, 2010, how can one person have strep, ear infection, a virus, and extremely low blood pressure? How and why? So I went out to the auction today and get some cars for our store. And boy, it was fun. I fucked up a couple people's sales, but that was the fun part. Don't F with me. You will pay, laughing my ass off. And that was from May 14th, 2010. May 24th, 2010. If people only knew, they would shut their mouth and mind their own business. I wonder what that was about. This is a photo, May 28th, 2010, of her and two of her friends. I believe it's one of her high school friends. And I think the other person might be the third person who was a party to the lawsuit, Keys versus Dirty South Custom Sound and Wheels. June 29th, 2010, I want to be a billionaire so freaking bad. Don't we all, girlfriend? Don't we all? July 9th, 2010, I need a break from this world, a break from everyone. I think there were some posts in 2010, 2011 where Shanann was maybe definitely showing some signs of some at least mild to maybe even moderate or severe depression. And then on August 25th, 2010, 3 doctors today, and I think I'm doctored out. And they're expensive. Could have bought shoes, outfit, and accessories. LOL. So at this time, Shanann wasn't feeling well, and she was going around to various doctors trying to figure out what was wrong with her. And as we know, she claims she eventually got that diagnosis of having lupus in 2010. In 2010, there were also several posts about Lady Gaga, about her being a fan of the artist Lady Gaga, about going to the concert. And we also happen to know that in 2010, Lady Gaga herself started talking about her diagnosis of having lupus. In 2010, Gaga revealed that she tested borderline positive for lupus, an autoimmune disease. She stated that she did not have any symptoms of lupus at that time, that she was taking precautions to monitor her health. Gaga's aunt, Joanne Stefani, died of lupus, which may have influenced her decision to get tested. She has also spoken about the importance of raising awareness about lupus and supporting those who have the disease. Now, I would like to note, for what it's worth, it is the day after the Lady Gaga concert that Shanann attended did she post about lupus for the very first time. On September 19th, 2010, getting ready to do the walk for lupus in Fayetteville with a fever, major joint pain on my left side, and exhausted. This should be interesting. So, the day after the Lady Gaga concert is Shanann's very first post about lupus, all in 2010. And so then for the rest of 2010, after that Lady Gaga concert in September, Shanann made a number of posts about lupus, talking about lupus as a condition that she actually had. And if you want to read them, you can go ahead and pause and read them for yourself. I'm just going to read this final one that is very definitive. It's from December 12th, 2010, and it says, "Dear Lupus, I really like my sleep, especially between the hours of 11 and 7. If we can try that schedule one of these nights, it would make me happy, and maybe I might like you a little more. Let's try this new schedule tonight and see what you think. If you're good, I will give you those pills that make me have weird cravings and make me gain all this unwanted weight you like to put on my ass. Love, Shanann." And I'm sorry, that's December 22nd, 2010. Okay, so it is on September 14th, 2010, just before Shanann goes to the Lady Gaga concert, just before the first time she mentions lupus and fundraising for lupus, does she mention Chris Watts on Facebook for the very first time. On September 14th, 2010, it says, "Chris Watts for donating to Lupus Walk. I greatly appreciate your support." And, from there, the rest is infamous history. But this is the very first time we hear from Shanann about Chris Watts. So here we are in 2011, and Shanann's first post of the year is on January 2nd, 2011. It says, "Day 2 of this new year, and I still have this damn migraine and flu from 2010. What the fuck? I thought we left everything in 2010. This sucks." So obviously she's starting out the new year not feeling well. Remember, back in 2010, she was apparently diagnosed with lupus and had a number of health problems. So in 2011, she talks about many of the same things, lupus, her health challenges. She loves Lady Gaga still. She talks about Chris a little bit, still talks about Dirty South, and she also discusses a new aspiration she has, and that is to go to nursing school, and she takes an exam to get into nursing school in 2011. This post says, June 20th, 2011, taking nursing entrance exam. I need this as my next stepping stone in life. And then it is in August of 2011, August 10th, 2011. It's the night that Chris proposes to Shanann. So this is a post from 2014 looking back to 2011 to that day. After Shanann and Chris get engaged in August of 2011, things move very quickly. The family that Shanann had been babysitting for, the Deets, move, and they move from North Carolina out to Colorado. And Chris and Shanann go and visit the Deets out in Colorado, and Shanann absolutely falls in love with Colorado. And the whole process of them moving out to Colorado and then buying a house from there happens very, very quickly. Also, Shanann and Chris have their engagement party in the end of 2011. On December 4th, 2011, Shanann says, "Oh my goodness, Chris and I had a wonderful time last night. We have some amazing friends and family. We couldn't have asked for a better night. I don't know if I have ever had as much fun as last night. Thank you so much for everything. Especially thank you, Mom, Dad, Nicole, Kayla, Cody, Maggie, Frankie, and Aunt Robin for all your help with everything. Enough food and desserts to feed an army. Thank you so much for everyone driving to spend a special night with us. Love everyone so much. We miss some of the wedding party, Jenna, Kelly, and Mark. They are all out of state and country and couldn't make it. You guys will get an extra dance with the bride. LOL. I hope I didn't forget anyone. I have a short-term memory these days." Now we know that the Watts family, Chris's parents, and Jamie were, in fact, at the engagement party. It is of the opinion of Shanann and her mother that they did something to sabotage that engagement party, and we noticed the conspicuous absence of mentioning of anyone in the Watts family in that Facebook post. It's thanking everybody for such a wonderful evening. It seems there was animosity between the Watts family and Shanann from the very beginning, but this is really the first traceable evidence of it, where there is failure to mention anybody in the Watts family when Shanann is thanking all the people who made their engagement party so great. It's just such a sad thing for the entire family, really. The year is 2012 now, and it is a very eventful year for Shanann Watts and also for Chris Watts, and definitely for their relationship. I'm just going to read you the first few posts of 2012. January 3rd, waiting in line for the handicap tag. You would think they would employ more help. Instead, they have 3 employees. So, we see some themes continuing throughout the years. The next post on January 3rd, 2012 says, well, I passed. That's all that matters. As of Monday, I will go into hibernation and will not come out to winter of 2013. If you need me, talk to Chris. Literally, I will be MIA. So for those of you that love me and will wait, I love you and see you soon. I might come out every now and again to see if there is light. So she's planning on going to nursing school this time, and she does in fact start nursing school. She does not end up finishing nursing school, but this is when she starts it, in early 2012. The next post is from January 22nd, 2012, and it says, planning a wedding by myself kind of sucks. As a first-year nursing student taking fundamentals, nursing, clinical, AMP1, AMP lab, psychology, and English. Boo to the wedding planning. Now off to do homework. And then there's a comment that says, thank you, Terry. Yes, that is why I told Chris I wanted this done before I get pregnant. I don't have my undergrad, so I'm taking the 2-year program with nursing. So 4 years and 2, LOL. So that was Shanann's plans at that time. Now on January 25th, 2012, and remember, they are still in North Carolina, Shanann's gigantic home is broken into in North Carolina. It says, house was broken into this morning 8 minutes after I left the house. I left, came back 5 minutes later because I forgot my phone and left again. 8 minutes later, I got a phone call saying my glass break alarm went off. Me being such a genius said, don't dispatch the police. It's probably a false alarm. So I go into the master bedroom and found the door open and siren was busted. They were still in house. I ran as fast as I could. OMG, scary. Why is 2012 so mean to me? WTF, really? What did I do? And then there's a frowny face. So this is early 2012 again. They just had their engagement party a month ago. She wants to move out to Colorado. They've already looked at houses. They visited out there. And now her beautiful, expensive house has been broken into. So let's see some comments from there and what the conversation's about.
The lady on the phone to 911 said she had worked for Belmont Police for the last 15 years and has never had a break-in for the house. They get a lot of car break-ins, but that is it. I think my boss pissed someone off and they followed me thinking it was him. I'm not sure. I have no idea. All I know is knowing that I was dumb enough to think it was a false alarm and walked into the house while he/she were in there still. Never do that again. I was running late and the call was so fast, I assumed I tricked the system to go off by mistake. So this next post says, Mom, I'll be fine. And my schedule just changed 2 weeks ago. And only this last 2 days, I was left that early. But I'll be fine. Police will be checking around here. And I told all my neighbors. So we are going to be good. Thank you. Love you. Thanks, everyone. Just a mama checking in on her girl, and Shanann dutifully following up and letting her mother know that she's okay. Mark Jameson, Chris Watts' best friend from childhood, says to Shanann, "Are you serious? Someone broke into your house?" And she replies, "Mark, yes. I walked into the house after the security company told me the glass break went off in my room. I assumed it was a false alarm because I just ran back through the house because I forgot my phone. I walked into the room, so door closed and the police found it open. So far, nothing taken. They smashed alarm box, so I think that scared them, hopefully. My brother is helping me secure the doors better right now. Chris and I put a sofa in front of them in the back of the house." So, Chris Watts' best friend at this time. Chris Watts is in love with this woman, Shanann. He's checking in on her, maybe checking in to see if something's fishy or if this is like, all straight up. I don't know what the deal was.
Okay, so then Shanann says, "As far as I see, no, I think it had something to do with my old job, the one I just left." She's referring to Dirty South Custom Wheels there. "My boss was threatened the day before I was broken into, so I hope they are not coming back." Mark Jameson says, "Wait, to quit that tires place? Dirty South or Custom South, whatever it was called?" And Shanann says, "Yeah." It's probably like, what?
So then Shanann replies to Mr. Mark Jameson and says, "I still have my truck. I quit because he couldn't cash my paychecks because there's no money." Yeah, that's always a bad sign. I've had that happen, but back to the post. He couldn't stay after work after working a 12-hour shift to stay and waste time going over nothing. When I wasn't sick, I used to always volunteer to stay after, but I couldn't stand or function after 12 hours on my feet working. I'm just going to nursing school now. I am in the ASN program. I will have my RN next December. Any other questions, Mr. Mark? LOL. You need to hurry up and get home. Mr. Christopher needs his best friend. So the next Facebook post after Shanann is talking about her house being broken into and she's back and forth with Mark Jameson, Chris Watts' childhood best friend, is their engagement announcement on March 2012. So this all happened really quickly. It was just when I was doing this project, I realized how quickly things moved. It was a month after that, they went out and visited Colorado. And, Shanann is liking the weather. She likes the altitude, the lowered humidity. She says it makes her lupus feel better. It makes her joints feel better. It's on June 14th. She says, "I could never wear this in Charlotte. The humidity is terrible. It's 85 here right now, and I'm not sweating. It's my favorite part of Colorado." Okay, so this is like 3-4 months after they got engaged. Hey, we meet Dieter for the first time. So she's at her friend Jenna's house. Jenna and her husband, who they stayed with before they moved to 2825 Saratoga Trail in Frederick, Colorado. There's little young baby Dieter. And on June 28th, 2012, at Chris's job for interview for time being. So this is, just a few months after they got engaged. He's already interviewing for jobs out in Colorado. I didn't realize how quickly this all happened until I was doing this project, like I just said. Did you guys know that? June 28th at Chris's job, and they all love him here. They said they were all glad the day he started. Proud of Christopher Watts. He is a hard worker. Jeez, this is moving quick. And here's Chris smiling, all happy at his job. By all accounts, he was an excellent mechanic. He was a talented mechanic. He was very skilled at what he did. On August 17th, we say, "I'm officially no longer a homeowner." So the house in North Carolina was sold, and they were looking for a new home in Colorado. August 17th, 2012.
As 2012 goes on, they're getting closer to their wedding date, and on October 18th, 2012, this says, "Congratulations, Shanann Catherine King and Christopher Watts, on the purchase of your new home. Builders should break ground in 4 weeks. Thank you for working with me." And that's from their realtor, Ann Meadow, who many people know because Chris Watts was calling him the day of the murders of his family, the family that he murdered. On October 24th, 2012, Shanann says 10 days left and Chris will be a lucky guy. Cannot believe it. So in 10 days from October 24th is going to be the day of their wedding. Shanann is clearly super excited. On October 25th, 2012, Shanann says on Facebook, "My Christopher will be here in less than 48 hours. Yay. Miss him when I'm sick." So she's homesick. They're going to be getting married in just a few days, and 2012 is going to end in a great way for Shanann Watts, moving into their new home in Colorado, married to who she believes is the love of her life, and who in the world would ever have foreseen the horrible fate that was to come.